the storyline with these two guys very much out there. We now know it's going to be, for the US title, not for the Universal Championship. But, all that said, when I was watching Raw, Matt, all that was kind of coming across to me as I was thinking, I just wish Jericho, wasn't smirking so much, and there was a little bit more hatred there as to what's happened there. I do feel like it's becoming a little bit of a stalemate now between these two, and whether it's just going on too long now. I felt like they pushed, they done this turn very too fast, like a week before Fastlane. I felt that was a big mistake. I felt they should have waited either at Fastlane to do the turn or just the Raw after. I feel like doing it now, when the timing they did it, you knew Kevin Owens had absolutely no chance then, didn't we, really, when that happened? And the way it's played out, Matt, obviously, on the night, I think I've said this before, I think it's going to be one of the best matches, Kevin Owens and Jericho, if they're given enough time. But is it sort of sour grapes for you, Matt, the position that this match is in? Because this could have been potentially one of the big main events of the night, but they've gone with the way they've gone. How do you? What is your feelings on this one going in?
This is a definite bittersweet for me, particularly because I feel like the Jericho Kevin Owens storyline was cut a little prematurely, because I think they could have gone a little bit longer. It's just because of the time constraints that Jericho has with his up and coming Fozzy tour that we're getting this all now culminating at WrestleMania. But and we're looking at the main event and we're seeing like Brock and Goldberg, but arguably Jericho, he's given a lot more to the business than Goldberg has, and he's kind of being penalised for that because he's there week in and week out for the last year or so, and Goldberg is a special attraction that only does special days and special times that he gets a more prominent position. But Jericho, he's in mid-40s and he's still able to perform at the highest level. And no doubt when he goes out there with Kevin Owens, these are two guys who, given their mindset, will go out there with the mindset to steal the show at WrestleMania. And I have no doubt that they may be one of the best matches that we see on that night because of that. And that's great. But because of that, they should be in a more prominent position. This should be for the Universal title, not for the US title. And we get into a whole different topic here, but Goldberg and, Brock Lesnar, they don't need the Universal title to be, respected or wanted to see. That's an attraction of itself. But Jericho versus Owens for the Universal title, that's what we should be talking about. And that's kind of one of the reasons why this WrestleMania is a bit of a letdown.
I agree with that. The idea, the only thing I can think of they've tried to... This is what happens a lot now. These kind of stars, the part-time stars, are treated as the biggest stars. So I think, what they've obviously done here is they thought, well, on one hand, they're saying to themselves, we want the Universal title to be the most important thing. So we're going to have the two biggest, the way they've positioned it, stars fight for it. But what really should be happening, Matt, is where what we used to get is maybe we should divide them and we should be having Brock versus Owens and, Goldberg versus Roman or something like that, as opposed to keeping them sort of away from everybody else, which just, for me, it separates everything. It makes the current roster look so weak. The fact that you can't even touch these guys. Now, at least if you had them divided, you could get Owens, you could get Roman, slightly, one of them could get over in that night. And I think that would have made so much more sense for me than having these two guys go up against each other. The way it's planning out, I tagged you in the video that I was watching the other day, Matt, that Madison Square Garden, that they had a really good house show. And I thought I'm more interested in that at the moment than I was WrestleMania, because I was seeing the likes of Triple H there and Brock and Owens, and I thought, that would have done me much better than what we're getting at WrestleMania. But being that said, Goldberg, Brock Lesnar, number 3 2 already to Goldberg. Interesting promo on Raw. We had Heyman kind of trying to sell this as much as he could. Even I think he's getting a little bit tired of it now. But when we come out of this one, Matt, are we expecting the end of? Is this a 1 month thing, or do you think there is potentially Vince McMahon is looking at ratings? Because I'll tell you one thing. I did do a little bit of research, Matt, and it turns out that Mr. Bill Goldberg has slightly increased up. Whenever he's announced on Raw, the Raw number does go up. I'm not going to deny that. Do you think there's any chance, Matt, that Vince McMahon may feel, well, actually there's more value in his stock than what he possibly thought, and that there is a chance he may hold on to the title at WrestleMania? Or do you think, like everybody else seems to think, including the bookies very strongly, that this is all now Brock Lesnar to win, and we possibly say goodbye to Goldberg for a short time? I'm going to guarantee this much, Matt. I don't think this is the end of Goldberg at WrestleMania. Despite whatever happens, I think he's going to be back for something else. The way he's been used at the moment. What's your feelings on that?
Well, I think, like you said, it won't be the end of Goldberg. But if Brock does not win at WrestleMania, you risk damaging your most prized asset even further, because Brock's already taken a loss off of Goldberg, and he's been made to look a bit ridiculous at Royal Rumble. How much damage can you do to this guy before it becomes a little bit irreparable? You don't want to make him look too weak. I think Brock is the one that can run with the title, and he can take it further, and further down the line, he can do a match that is say at least 15 minutes long. Brock is capable of that. But what we're seeing from Goldberg so far is that his limits are a minute and 20 seconds,
sure.
Or you could stretch it and say 3 minutes. But how far do we know that Goldberg can go? And that is the problem. And even for this WrestleMania that's coming up, this is where they've damaged themselves even further by not actually showing us enough of Goldberg, and only giving us about 7 moves since his return. It kind of makes you worry. If you was looking at WrestleMania as a pay-per-view, do you really want to spend that amount of money on a main event, which could be over in a minute and 20 seconds? And it's not even based on skill; it's predetermined. They predetermined that you're going to spend your money on a main event that's going to last about 60 seconds. It's kind of a real disappointment, and actually gives fans a lot more reason for anger, because someone out there like Vince McMahon has decided this match won't, like we were talking about with Kevin Owens, even this match isn't going to even give you 30 seconds. It can give you a slight justification for some rage.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. The one thing I will say, Matt, do you think this match? I mean, do you expect this match to actually go on last, or do you think they're going to go with Bray and Orton?
I think if we're looking about WrestleMania and what they should do and tradition, I think Randy Orton should go on last, because he is consistent. He is born into the business. He has got the talent to actually perform a match that can send the fans home satisfied. I think Randy Orton should go on last, because he will deliver a consistent match. I wouldn't trust Goldberg to do that, because it's very explosive and very spontaneous, and everything you get from Goldberg, it can be quite sudden. But everything that Randy Orton does will be calculated and precise, and we know that we'll get a good performance from him.
Yeah, I was really fearing that if that is the last match that night. Cool, blimey. Not sure what I think of that. Mind you, maybe they'll put on Shane and AJ at this rate, the way it's all going, you never know. The other thing that was announced, Matt, is we've got a tag team match that's now come about, a triple threat one on the Raw side of things. Kind of knew it was going to go that way in a way. But yeah, it'll be Gallows, Anderson, Enzo, Big Cass, and Cesaro and Sheamus. That's not too bad on paper, but again, I kind of worry if that'll get lost. If that'll just be an encore match type thing, whether it's just after something big, and they just want to put a match out, or does this have potential to be sort of booted on to the pre-show? Who knows? Because the pre-show is a good 2 hours at WrestleMania, and you got to expect a couple of matches in that at least. So there's always potential for some of these matches to be booted off. This one, I mean, Alexa Bliss, I mean, that potentially, the SmackDown Women's one, that could be one of the pre-shows. I don't see them having, as much as they're all for this women things, I don't see them having both titles defended on the WrestleMania card. It's just the way I see it at the moment on that one. And, of course, I think the way we all know the Cruiserweight's going to go, Matt. What do you think of the idea of Neville and Austin Aries? Because that potentially could be a great match, Matt. But, again, for me, it's all about, are they going to get enough time, or is this going to be one of those matches that just doesn't get enough time, and it's all about them going out, doing high spots, getting the fans up for, say, the next big match on the night. Because to me that would be that's a great match on paper between those two, and they're not your normal cruiserweights that they have. These are both established names. So, what do you think on that one, Matt? And you like me, you don't, you want to see it on the main show, but maybe have a bit of time for these guys.
Well, for me, at WrestleMania, there's only two matches that have that kind of X factor in them. It is Jericho and Owens, where they have that passion to actually entertain the fans and want to do that. And then the other one is Aries and Neville. I think that they are two guys that have worked their asses off to get where they are now. And if you to look at Aries, he had an unfortunate injury to his eye during his time at NXT, and he's done some excellent work on commentary, and now's his time to shine in the 205 division. And although he's had some matches on the 205, I feel like they're just kind of warm-ups, and this will be his real showcase at WrestleMania. Sure. And it's quite an honour to be given that, straight jump into the 205 scene and just be given a title match. And I think when you look at what he's gone throughout his career, WrestleMania is the summit of the mountain, and he's going to be given 110% in that match. So I'm excited to see how he does with that, because I think they're really going to go at it, and I think it's going to be a great match. My inclination would be that Neville will come out on top after being such a dominant heel that he has been, and I haven't seen one like that for quite some time, and I'd like to see that continue a little bit more. I just think this match will be really good regardless of that, and I think Aries will put in a great performance, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. But like you say, I'm really hoping it does make it to the main card, because it is a match that has potential to actually make a memorable WrestleMania moment at least.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, talking about emotions and all the rest of it, they're trying to get the segment, of course, on Raw last night, the whole Mick Foley thing. Obviously, Stephanie was there, Triple H got involved, and then, nice little pop for Seth, I felt, at the beginning, but then I think it went on for too long. I didn't like the idea of Triple H getting in there again, and I felt they could have left it a little bit like that and wait till next week, but they did that. Matt, what do you think about this Seth Rollins Triple H thing? Is this going to be? Do you think this will be an announced match, or do you think this is just going to be a sort of street fight on the night, calling each other out, and that way there's not too much expectation on this being sort of a one of the big matches of the night, like it probably would have been. Where do you think they're going to go with that? And do you think there's any, because they brought Mick Foley into this, I'll tell you one thing I was thinking, Matt, when I was watching this, I was thinking, actually, I'd rather see Mick Foley and Triple H square off at the moment, because it was looking a lot more better. Real emotions between those two, and I felt like finally Mick Foley is going to stand up, and I really, you could tell the tension was there, and it was really coming off well between those two, and I was always thinking, yes, go on, hit him, and I'd rather see those two slug it out than probably what we're getting here between Seth and Triple H. I really feel this has been way overdue. I still don't really know. I know he tried to explain it in so many words, Triple H, but I still don't get the reasoning behind so much hatred on Seth Rollins all of a sudden. What did you think about that, Matt? And do you think that they might bring the Mick Foley story into their story, perhaps, going forward?
still think they're booking